Hello, everyone. My name is Drew Dosick, pro trader here at Verified Investing. I'm back in the office. Very thankful for Gareth to cover yesterday. But today in the stock market world, we saw some ups and downs in stocks. Mainly the big cap stocks did take a hit. That's back on the news from the other day with semiconductors really facing a lot of pressure. United Health actually dropped 20% today. Big drop in that stock. We've got Netflix earnings coming up just in a little bit. So let's jump into some action. I'll show you some of the charts, what I'm thinking about. And so let's get right into it. All right. So straight up here on the Dow Jones, look at this, down 1.26%. That's mainly just because of United Health. Huge fall in that stock today. NASDAQ down only 0.1%. S&P down or up 0.2%. U.S. oil had a breakout day. We're going to show trend lines that we've been watching over the last few days of this show, and I'll show you how and where price could go on oil. Gold has dropped just slightly, but moderately flat. Bitcoin is showing resilience. Unbelievable performance in Bitcoin the last few days. We're going to get into that chart a little bit later too. Nvidia, as you see, down 2.8%. The big boys, Google, Microsoft, all down. Apple has had a nice bounce up. Netflix is green going into earnings. So what does that tell me? Well, it tells me exactly options expiration week expiring today. This is an unusual day, and we're jumping into Netflix first before the spiders, just so I could show you some levels that I'm thinking of for trading after the hours. So if Netflix does have good earnings, an immediate pop up to the $1,000 area would be resistance, followed by this $100 and $1,020 mark. It's a trend line right here on the charts. Now, should we start selling off after the bell closes? Now, keep in mind, expirations for options expire at 4 o'clock. So price movement afterwards is going to be more natural as to what to expect. It's not going to have as much shenanigans that I talked about earlier in the week. So should Netflix sell off after the bell rings today? We have a first gap fill here around $930, but then we're going to have major support on Netflix right around 910, 909 and 18 cents. So pivotal areas to watch on Netflix, both above and below, if you're interested in trading earnings. All right, into the spiders. We see here, and on Tuesday when we were last speaking, I was talking about how price was just squeezing in this wedge area, and then towards the end of the day started selling off and closed here. We had a massive drop down lower and are now putting in essence, kind of a sideways day on the spiders. Now, again, we're going into a holiday weekend, and going into a holiday weekend, a lot of people are going to be getting together. The likelihood that stocks would really collapse going into a holiday are fairly low. And the reason being, if the sentiment is negative, that's also going to continue selling further on into the weeks to come. Usually the government likes to prop up any sort of stocks going into major holidays. That way people feel good and are willing to spend money should they be traveling. All right, so back into this chart. What I want to show you, though, some relative weakness in the semiconductors. So let me jump into the semiconductors, and we'll see here that on the weekly chart, you can see this has been a bear flag formation. This bear flag formation on the semis is drop price down, but has not hit the measured move. And even if I flip on the weekly simple moving averages, this red line right here is the 200 weekly moving average. We have not hit that. We haven't even kissed it. It's too far away to register as a kiss. So what this tells me is that while this bounce has been great for the semis, it's likely going to move lower. Now compare this over with the spiders. The spiders you see here, we're much higher up on the chart. We didn't even come close to kissing this, but we were much closer on the SMH. So this is, again, is the weekly chart with the simple moving averages. It's important to consider these whenever you're interested in longer term investing. This red line, the 200 simple moving average, is considered a brick wall. When price comes straight down into it, you can anticipate major support. But like we saw with the semis here, when we got so close and didn't hit it and got our bounce, the next attempt to come down, this area has now been weakened, and we likely are going to start piercing and going lower if we see further selling pressure on the charts. All right, into Bitcoin. Bitcoin, as I mentioned, has been resilient, and it certainly has. I've called for this to have some consolidation for any bulls out there interested in price moving up in Bitcoin, and sure enough, that's exactly what's happened so far. So right now, price action's been hanging out this week. If this continues for a couple more days, this is going to give Bitcoin the power and momentum to potentially move higher, all while pressure has been on the stock market. So is this now the turning point for Bitcoin? Bitcoin's been a risk asset for a long time. Is this now the turning point where dollars are starting to go into Bitcoin for fear, much like gold? I don't know. We'll see later, and if Bitcoin can continue moving higher. But this price action certainly has me raising some flags and considering that it is potentially changing into less of a risk on asset. Into gold. Gold had a down day today, but that's likely to be expected. Look at this monumental move on gold. We had a target high right around 3,400 on gold should it continue reaching higher. But I'll bring your attention back down to the RSI. We still have lower RSI than the previous highs registered on the chart, all dictating to me that gold is due for a correction and come back in, at least test this trend line, but likelihood of this trend line down here at 2,800 being tested for gold. Into silver. Silver, last I discussed this with you all. Price action was here. On Wednesday, price moved straight up into resistance, and you can see that resistance is holding strong so far. So for silver to break through this resistance, much like what I described on Bitcoin, we need price action to still maintain in this area. If price action maintains in this area, you've got a good shot of breaking through this resistance and going back high, testing this pivot, and then ultimately 34.86. If we get rejected here, price action for silver could come down to $30.67. Into oil. Oil had some interesting news here. We did break above this declining trend line, and I've been talking about this being a line in the sand for oil. So since oil is now up above this area, it does have a chance to go higher. First things first, we've got to confirm above this candle, and that can transpire tomorrow or next week or further trading days. It doesn't necessarily have to be the very next trading day. But what I like about this move up, it's not a huge candle, making it more difficult for when price corrects to come back up and confirm. This is a smaller candle break. So the likelihood that this could confirm is fairly high. We'll watch price action. Meanwhile, this is not major support. Price can break down underneath this should that happen next week, and then in essence erase all this price action for confirmation. We'll see come Monday where price is and update you then. Natural gas is now forming a bear flag underneath this inclining trend line. Now, please note too, this trend line, it has not confirmed. Price is not confirmed underneath this trend line yet. So this right now can simply just be a temporary break of the trend line, which happens often. Many people that discredit technical analysis say, well, that trend line broke. The trend lines are supposed to break. And when they're hit enough, they will break. That's the point of it. It gives us a line where price will likely pause or even reverse course in action. So this is behaving much to be anticipated because as I scrolled back before, this is now the 1, 2, 3, 4th collective hit. If you studied anything that we teach here, that tells you that this area is vulnerable to be broken at this moment. Doesn't guarantee it, and we'll have to see confirmation to confirm that coming next week. Into the 10-year yield. 10-year yield, you can see here, has been falling over the last several days, which is great for folks interested in lowering interest rates and cheaper money for the market. However, today we started bouncing back up, and we bounced back up mainly because of all this price action previous on the chart. Major support, though, for the 10-year yield will be down here at 4.19%. Should we see any continuation of falling next week, expect support here, and then ultimately major support down here at the bottom of this parallel at 3.9%. Into Palantir. Now, Palantir is in a critical crossroads right now in its chart. Right here, you see this down move and then price action moving sideways. This is a bear flag consolidation. However, this parallel also has been holding price down too. Price did not confirm here, and it still has not yet confirmed here. If I scroll back on the chart, I can show you how this parallel originates. It's in essence the entire length of the chart of Palantir. So what this is telling me, though, is that price is trying to break back above the parallel, and it keeps getting rejected. If we were to break back again next week, watch for a confirmation, and if that confirmation comes, next resistance is 101.35, followed by 112.06. But if it continues to have weakness right here at this parallel, we have a myriad of support levels right here. This one being minor, this one being minor, and this one being major. So first minor support, 87.44. Second minor support, 84.17. And then major support at $77.53. Into Tesla. Tesla, I had mentioned before, on April 16th, we were going to come to the end of this wedge, and we sure have broken down under this wedge. But back to the confirmation, we have not confirmed under this wedge. So this could just be much like this breakdown here and this little poke above here, little traps. So pay close attention to see if price action next week closes beneath this candle, which is going to be a low of 233.89. If it does close beneath there, get ready, because price action on Tesla will likely start pushing down under $200, which I've been saying for a while. This area should be a great accumulation zone for a long-term long on Tesla. Into Nvidia. This is another great point I want to bring up. Since this is such a big player in the markets, Nvidia is in the news often, and then also other mega caps are in the news often too. So comparing these charts, these mega caps, to give you a barometer as to what the investors in these stocks are thinking is very helpful in determining future price action. Okay, so back into the chart of Nvidia. You see here we've got the weekly chart displayed. And this is almost like a declining parallel of price action that's been holding price on this move down in Nvidia. Now notice here too, I've got the simple moving average down here. Nvidia on the 200 moving average hasn't even gotten anywhere close. That tells me a lot of investors are still tied up in Nvidia, believing in its product, because it is, after all, in the news and one of the leaders in the AI space. So, but if I flip over to Apple, look at the 200 moving average already tagged on the weekly chart. Look at Google. Google has also come very close to the 200 moving average, but Nvidia is still hanging out up here way away from the 200 moving average. Ultimately, excuse me, this 200 moving average does get tagged. It gets tagged every 200 weeks. It's based upon the time frame in which you're watching and looking at the chart. If I flip over the daily chart, it's 200 days that this red line will be tagged. But back to the weekly chart, you can see we have an awful lot of space. That tells me Nvidia, should the market start crumbling further, or should more pressure be put under Nvidia with more tariffs or more punishments for selling certain chips to China that they shouldn't have sold, we have a lot of room down on Nvidia that price could go. So investors, beware. That doesn't mean it's about to happen. It's just something to keep in mind whenever you're investing in these mega cap stocks. Now, again, we've got Netflix earnings after the bell. Our team here is trading them live right now. I'm going to get off and go join in on the action. Live day trading is very fun, and especially earnings trading is equally as fun. It's very fast. So hope to see you guys in there. Aside from that, have a great holiday weekend. Good Fridays tomorrow. I'll be back on Trading the Close on Monday. Again, my name's Drew Dosick with Verified Investing. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next